Let's move into some climate change news. This is Hurricane Delta is now bearing down on the Gulf Coast as a Category 3 hurricane. Category 3 conditions will continue to go downhill throughout the afternoon, including the risk of life-threatening storm surge. Hold on one second, guys. Gonna have to. Louisiana coastline prepares to be battered again with arrival of Hurricane Delta. This is from the Washington Post. As Hurricane Delta continued its arc across the Gulf of Mexico on Thursday afternoon, the storm, like so many before it, was drawing from warm waters and strengthening as it spun towards the Louisiana coastline. It has been just 6 weeks since Hurricane Laura crashed into the United States near here, tied as the strongest Category 4 hurricane ever to make landfall in Louisiana, and less than a month since Hurricane Sally was the first since 2004 to make landfall in Alabama. Delta's sustained wind speeds surged to 115 miles per hour on Thursday evening, and the forecasts were calling for it to remain intense, potentially bringing catastrophic force along with another huge storm surge, flooding and devastation to a region that has yet to recover from its last battering. So Delta making its way towards the coastline. Moving on. So a lot of people sent me articles. We were talking about the Russian, the catastrophic incident that's happening on the Russian coast of Kamchatka, I believe is the area. So a lot of people sent me articles. There's a little more information around what is going on there, but not much. No, they still don't know what is going on, but just a little more information to add to the story. So eco disaster at Kamchatka Peninsula with mass death of sea animals at precious Pacific Beach. This is from October 3rd. Surfers raised alarm after once pristine waters caused major problems with eyesight, fevers, and throat aches. The black volcanic sand of Kalaktriski Beach, one of the gems of the Kamchatka Peninsula near its largest city, Petropavlovsk, is littered with hundreds of dead sea animals, from deep-sea giant Pacific octopuses to seals, sea urchins, stars, crabs, and fish. The Pacific Ocean waves, once favored by local surfers and loved by tourists, now have a strong, toxic smell. Watercolor has a clear yellow tinge. The strongly bonded community of local surfers signaled trouble with the beach 3 weeks ago, saying that they had a burning sensation in their eyes, strong headaches, often fevers, throat aches, and a feeling of losing eyesight after getting out of the water. Now it emerges that even staying close to the water makes a poisonous effect, posing in pictures of gas masks. They continue to dive to update on the state of sea animals, bringing devastating news that once thriving underwater life is gone, with even the strongest shells that could tear wetsuits lying open dead. Seals behave as if in a trance, they say, refusing to dive and spending as long as possible on the surface. Checks by the Regional Ministry of Natural Resources showed there was a spike in levels of phenols at 2.5 times higher and oil products 3.6 times higher. Urgent investigation into the cause of water contamination was ordered today by Vladimir Putin's envoy to the Far Eastern Federal District, Yuri Tretnev. Two versions are discussed so far, with one being recent military training at Kamchatka causing the ecological catastrophe. Another is leakage of oil products and phenol from ships passing through Avacha Gulf. Earlier today, several local residents published satellite pictures shared by Greenpeace Russia, showing a yellow-colored river flowing into the Pacific Ocean. Well, there's a military training ground upstream, they said. We are getting new information every hour. Just recently received satellite pictures from Greenpeace RU of the river that flows into the ocean and that evidently killed everything. We are getting new information every hour. Up the stream there is a military training ground. Knowing how the system works and how these kinds of questions are getting hushed, we must do everything in our power to save the ocean right and to defend from a catastrophe in the future, wrote one of the surfers under the nickname Yola. Our beautiful underwater world is now color gray and yellow. Fish looks like it's been boiled. Even the strongest shells that could tear a diving suit fell off the rocks. The scariest of all is that we don't know what to do, how to help. I am looking at the stunning sunset over Avacha Bay, knowing that its bottom is covered with dead sea animals. Another local called Christy Rosenberg wrote, here's a satellite picture if y'all can see that. What is causing this mass die-off? Greenpeace today demanded an immediate investigation into the reasons for the contamination. The scale is not yet determined, but the fact that the dead animals are found all over the coast confirms the seriousness of the incident, says Ecological Campaigning Group. Eyewitnesses said that water at Kalaktritsky Beach has changed color and is no longer safe for people's health. For weeks, people have reported feeling a white veil in their eyes, dry eyes, worsening of eyesight, and throat ache. That is truly tragic and infuriating. And how do we stop this onslaught from industrial civilization on the planet? How do we stop it? So many have so few answers and such little power to do anything about this. CB Unglesby, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you. Basil Peterson, thank you for the super chat. The climate seems to be changing. Indeed. Indeed it is. Yeah, this is another disgusting example of the utter disregard for the environment, for the planet, and for nature's creatures, and for the planet that actually keeps us alive. Let's move on. Very interesting statement from David Attenborough, renowned broadcaster from the BBC. Hopefully you guys can see this. This is from the BBC. Attenborough: curb excess capitalism to save nature. Really? What is excess capitalism? You mean everything that we need, anything that isn't what we absolutely need? You mean anything that's non-essential? Non-essential. Anyways, thank you for stating this, David Attenborough, for stating the obvious and the necessary, and for at least putting this idea out there that capitalism and consumerism are the things that are killing the planet. Sir David Attenborough says the excesses of Western countries should be curbed to restore the natural world, and we'll all be happier for it. The veteran broadcaster said the standard of living in wealthy nations is going to have to take a pause. Whoa, let me back up here. Hold on. Let me rewind. Standard of living. Standard of living. The problem is our standard of living, which we are trying to export to the rest of the planet, right? What are all the NGOs on the planet doing? What are all the helpful organizations out there doing? They're trying to raise the standard of living of all the other people on the planet. But look at here, here in the Western nations, it's our standard of living that is the problem. That is the problem. So the standard of living in other countries is only a problem to Western nations because they want us to have our standard of living. They want them to buy all the stuff that we have, that we're making for them, that we're involved in making for ourselves. But if we lower our standard of living, what does that tell the rest of the planet, who we have been brainwashing and programming for decades now? Guys, you got to do what we do. You got to have what we have. You got to live how we live. Right? Nature would flourish once again, he believes, when those that have a great deal perhaps have a little less. Maybe a lot less. Maybe we can just go a little farther than that, David Attenborough, than having a little less. Sir David was speaking to Liz Bonin for BBC Radio 5 Live's new podcast, What Planet Are We On? Speaking personally and frankly, Sir David explained, we are going to have to live more economically than we do. And we can do that, and I believe we will do it more happily, not less happily, right? Because having more money doesn't lead to more happiness. As studies have shown, 4 out of 5 doctors agree. Capitalism doesn't really help you. That doesn't mean to say that capitalism is dead, and I'm not an economist, and I don't know, but I believe the nations of the world, ordinary people worldwide, are beginning to realize that greed does not actually lead to joy. Very, very insightful words from David Attenborough. I'm so happy that he's saying stuff like this. He's saying it on national television in the UK. Bully for you, David Attenborough. Sir David said, when we help the natural world, it becomes a better place for everyone. And in the past, when we lived closer to nature, that means with a whole lot less junk. The planet was a working ecosystem in which everybody had a share. The 10-part podcast is being released. Oh, maybe it's not on television. Maybe it's just a podcast. Maybe it's just on the radio. So maybe it's just a podcast. Who knows? Yes. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change study looked at how the world would cope if temperatures rose by 1.5 C by the end of the century. Again, completely off base and out of touch with reality. We are not going to raise by 1.5 C by the end of the century. We're going to raise by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 C. That means death. Death to many, many humans, billions of humans. 1.5 C we are going to see in this decade. The World Meteorological Organization said we could see 1.5 C in the next 4 years. So this bullshit right here needs to go. The podcast series explores issues and solutions around climate change and features the BBC environment correspondent Matt McGrath and science correspondent Vic Gill, along with interviews with well-known names like Idris Elba, Lily Cole, and Jay Blades. The IPCC special report released in October 2018 didn't save the planet, quote unquote, but it may yet prove to be the most critical moment in the story of climate change. Is it? Will it? Really now? The study makes 2 things very clear. The first, that there was a massive difference in keeping the rise in global temperatures this century to 1.5 C as opposed to 2 C, which we may see this decade or the next decade. So long before 2100. Long before. And most likely before 2050. Most likely. So let's be realists about that. Let's tell people the truth around that. Let's get people ready for the actuality that's going to be our near future, not the far future, not generations from now, not decades from now, but in the next decade or 2. Politicians had 4 years focused on the higher number. The special report made clear that was a risky strategy, really, which could see the end of coral reefs and expose millions of people to the threat of floods. The second key message from the IPCC was that the world could stay under 1.5 C if carbon emissions were essentially slashed in half by 2030. No. No. That is false. Sorry, IPCC, you are full of shit on that one. The urgency of the challenge laid out in the report inspired millions of young people to take action. This pressure is filtering up to politicians. Is it now? Is it now? Read my lips. Joe Biden will not end fracking. Joe Biden will not end fracking. So is it filtering up to politicians? No, it is not. No, it is not. Not fast enough. Not fast enough. Let's move on. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Let's move on to this tweet from D. Coronata. Arctic ice extent. As predicted, the nearly stagnant 2020 increase compared to the nominal increase in 2012 has caused a change of position. 2020 now has a smaller area of Arctic ice for this data than the previous record holder, 2012, and the differential rate of change is huge. Can you all see this? Hopefully you can. Here we are, 2020. This is the extent. The extent has now, for this day, dropped below 2012. And the gap, pew, has also grown. And let me show you this. So this is 2012 record minimum. This is the orange line. And this is 2020. We didn't get to the lowest sea ice extent. Looks like the second lowest. But for some parts of this year, as with 2019, 2019 was lower than the record on many days. 2019 held the record, and for many days this year, 2020 held the record. Then went above for a little while, now holding the record again. There you go. Alexi says, coming in 2021, the 2000 to 2020 baseline. Yes. Anton Crea says, it's weird seeing hardly any white areas of Alaska when I look at maps now. Weird and scary. Anthony Davis, no effing bees. IPCC stands for Insane People Can't Change. Yes. Yes, IPCC is gaslighting us, indeed. Big time. Again, that is the conspiracy, right? If you want the conspiracy theory around climate change, there is a conspiracy. The conspiracy is to keep people from knowing how effed we are. The conspiracy is to keep people thinking like, we've got, 8 or 9 decades or 6 decades. I don't know, 4 decades, 2050, 3 decades, right? Yeah, we got a little time to figure it out. That's the conspiracy, is to make everybody feel like that. Like, we're on the case. if Joe Biden gets in there, we're on the case. Green New Deal and all that. Nah, blah. The idea, the reason for that is to allow politicians and corporations to continue with business as usual and allow them to kick the can down the road another 10 or 20 years until we all succumb to climate change. CB Unglesby, 4 years tops. Right. So yeah, so they don't want to tell you how incredibly effed the planet is. And I was thinking about the future, like, collapse scenarios or whatever. We've already seen extreme temperatures and extreme weather events, for the last few years. They've been steadily trending upwards, right? Just over the last 5 years. I mean, there's been an explosion of extreme weather events, wildfires, hurricanes, cyclones, heat waves, right? There's been an explosion of extreme weather events. And so in the next 5 years, what happens when we start seeing, like this year, we had a couple of days in Los Angeles where, we were hitting like close to 120 degrees, right? In the 110s, 120s. So what happens in the next 5 years when we start in certain, let's say, certain Western countries, maybe Europe or maybe the United States or maybe in China, maybe in Japan, we see heat waves of 130 degrees, maybe they last a couple days. Maybe we have a whole week of 110, 115, 120 degrees in Los Angeles, or Phoenix sees 130, 135 for a week in the next 5 years. What happens? What actually starts happening to people? We start seeing AC systems go down, grids go down. We start seeing maybe mass deaths. Maybe we have some heat waves happen over food producing areas, or maybe we have, floods year after year after year during food production season in the Midwest, right? And then one year, all of a sudden, dang, why does this head of lettuce cost $30? All of a sudden you see, very empty looking shelves at the store, the supermarket, and it's not coronavirus. I don't doubt that we wouldn't see those scenarios happening in the next 5 years. Granted, they're not scenarios they're not going to be forever scenarios. They're going to be, again, extreme events that happen maybe for a couple days or maybe for a week. But people start to go, whoa, whoa. It's 125 in LA. It's 130 in LA, right? Or we have, 3 days straight of 125 weather. Whoa, whoa. That's, is that going to be when people are going to wake up and understand, like, holy shit, we don't have till 2050. Holy shit, there's no, we don't have till 2030 or 2040 to figure this out. That's going to happen in the next 5 years. That will happen in the next 5 years. Yeah, boiled rope lampposts. I saw that some of those posts about lettuce costing $15 a head in the Arctic. Yes. Or, $30 for some strawberries or whatever. Yeah. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to be the reality in the next 5 years. I'm hoping that doesn't happen for another 10 years. But if you just see what has happened in the last 5 years, if you just looked at what has been going on in the last 5 years, if you have looked at temperatures, sea ice melt, sea level rise, extreme heat events, number of cyclones, number of hurricanes, number of floods, 500-year floods, 1,000-year floods. If you just look over the last 5 years, if you just take a peek, just take a gander, you see that trend line is very distinctive, and it's exponentiating, right? So, I don't doubt that trend line continues over the next 5 years. Alexei Kuperinin says 2060 sounds calm. Right. Basil Peterson, Silent Spring. Yep. I mean, that's right. Peggy Gravel, that's what's going to be happening. I mean, it's not going to suddenly, we might get a reprieve, and we may be lucky. We might get a lucky couple of years where we're just holding steady. We might get a reprieve of 5 years or something where we're, maybe we can plateau for a little bit, but like if you just look at the trend lines of the last 5 years, we are in deep shit. And that is what they are trying to keep from the public. They are trying to keep the public from realizing this and figuring this out, and everybody all of a sudden going like, oh my God, right? This is what's going on. Gravel. Okay, I'm making it all fancy like Gravel. So, Peggy Gravel, got it. Yeah, so that, that's the conspiracy in a nutshell. The conspiracy is they're not telling you how bad it is. They will not tell you how bad it is. They will not state on over the TV, over the television, guys, we're in big trouble. We need to make some massive changes. They're not going to do that because they know that their power, their way of life, their hold on over people's minds, their ability to program and brainwash people every single day is going to fall apart and come undone and come unraveled. And then what? Anthony Davis prepping now, stocking up on peanut butter. Right. Yeah, G. Demarest says there's always variation in climate. This is what the CC deniers hone in on. Yeah, but if you just talk to them about the last 5 years, that's a variation in climate that is undeniable. You can't deny it. Sorry. We've seen, and there are just too many charts and graphs and temperature spikes, and they're just not. Jacob Gordon, we've already been getting those years. Yes. DeVlaw 49, September hottest on record. Yes. Scott Andrews, can't wait to see the Trumpers go nuts when they realize WASF. Sandy might be doing a show tonight, so guys, join in Environmental Coffee House if she's up and running. Okay, lastly, guys, I'm going to read a little more of this Gray Zone report because it's very long, but it's very good, and it's very, very applicable to the conversation that we were having around green energy and renewables. I'm going to read this for a couple minutes, guys, just to kind of close out the show. So, grab a cup of coffee or whatever and hang out for a couple more minutes. The inevitable rush on minerals required to power the green revolution has not exactly delighted residents of the global south. I think maybe not. Evo Morales, the indigenous former president of Bolivia, was driven from power in 2019 by a military junta backed by the United States and local oligarchs, in what he branded a lithium coup. With the world's largest untapped lithium resources, Bolivia is estimated to hold as much as half of the world's reserves. Under Morales, the country guaranteed that only state-owned firms could mine the mineral. The ousted socialist leader argued that multinational corporations supported his right-wing domestic opponents in order to get their hands on Bolivia's lithium, an essential element in the electric batteries that provide the cornerstone to a digital economy dependent on smartphones, laptops, and electric vehicles. As a small country of 10 million inhabitants, we are soon going to set the price of lithium, Morales said. They know we have the greatest lithium reserves in the world in a space of 16,000 square kilometers. Maybe I read this yesterday, maybe not. Anyways, minerals used in selected transport technologies. Look at this, electric car. Copper, lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt, chromium, molybdenum, or molybdenum, something like that, zinc, rare earths, silicone, and others. Conventional car, you see the difference. A lot of minerals go into an electric car. Just before the military coup in Bolivia, a report by the World Economic Forum's Global Battery Alliance reported that the global demand for electric batteries will increase 14-fold before 2030. Ooh-wee. That is quite a windfall for those people who are producing these batteries. Almost half of today's lithium is mined to produce electric batteries, and the demand for the mineral will only rise as power grids incorporate high levels of battery-powered tech, and the demand for electric vehicles increases. Electric batteries are also heavily reliant on cobalt, most of which is mined from the Congo, and often in illegal and dangerous conditions by child labor. Yes, a good comment in the comment section from yesterday's video. Michelle Lee pointed out the cost to third world countries and especially African countries who are involved in the cobalt mining trade, using child labor and just horrible conditions for the people that are mining this mineral. In December 2019, over a dozen Congolese plaintiffs sued Apple, Google's Alphabet parent company, Microsoft, Dell, and Tesla, accusing them of knowingly benefiting from and aiding and abetting the cruel and brutal use of young children in the Democratic Republic of Congo to mine cobalt. Good God. Did you all know this? Did you know this in December 2019? That all these companies were sued over these mining conditions. This July, Tesla CEO and electric battery kingpin Elon Musk appeared to take partial credit for the 2019 military coup that forced Bolivia's Evo Morales from power, asserting that big tech billionaires like him could coup whoever we want. This guy says we will coup whoever we want. Deal with it. The payoff for all the dirty and deadly mining required to manufacture the solar panels, wind turbines, and electric batteries required to power the new industrial revolution is supposed to be a planet no longer faced with a climate emergency, quote unquote, and never mind the damage to the earth and its non-human inhabitants. But with the demand for electricity constantly growing, is it even possible to power an economy like that of the U.S. with entirely renewable sources of energy, excluding nuclear? A scientific projection by one of the closest allies of Josh Fox and Anthony Ingraffia was supposed to have answered that question and put all doubts to bed. Instead, it resulted in acrimony and embarrassment for its author. The 2050 transition goal, real science or a murky crystal ball? In his piece hammering, Planet of the Humans in the Nation, Fox touted the proliferation of 100% renewable energy plans put forward by Stanford University professor Mark Jacobson, one of the most important pieces of evidence refuting the film's grim narrative. Jacobson's study, according to the National Geographic, was a foundation stone of the Green New Deal proposal put forward by Democratic Senator Ed Markey and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Um, it was also central to the energy plan advanced by the presidential campaigns of Senator Bernie Sanders, who co-opted the op-ed with Jacobson that called for the full transition to clean energy by 2050. Jacobson, like Ingrafia, is an environmental engineer and political partner of Fox. The Stanford professor helped Fox found the environmental advocacy organization The Solutions Project alongside actor Mark Ruffalo and the banker and former Tesla executive Marco Krapels in 2011. Besides his working relationship with Jacobson, Fox failed to acknowledge that the professor's all renewables projection was strongly challenged by 21 leading energy scientists in the prestigious Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences journal. The scientists concluded Jacobson's paper was rife with invalid modeling tools, contained modeling errors, and made implausible and inadequately supported assumptions, quote unquote. A survey of the debate by Scientific American scoffed at Jacobson's remarkable assumption, quote, that U.S. hydroelectric dams could add turbines and transformers to produce 1,300 gigawatts of electricity instantaneously, or the equivalent of about 1,000 large nuclear or coal power plants running at full power, unquote. Jacobson retaliated against his critics by filing a $10 million defamation lawsuit, which he was forced to withdraw in 2018. Legal commentator Kenneth White described the suit as, quote, clearly vexatious and intended to silence dissent about an alleged scientist peer-reviewed article, unquote. This April, a D.C. Superior Court judge invoked anti-SLAPP legislation that reportedly ordered Jacobson to pay the defendant's legal fees. Wow. So, yeah. He was slapped down. Planet of the Humans co-producer Ozzy Zenner said Mark Jacobson's flameout as a symptom of a wider problem within mainstream climate activism. When big greens talk about facts, they often aren't talking about what most people understand to be facts, he explained. They're usually talking about models, which attempt to predict the future based on estimations of physical conditions, projections, and assumptions. Green industrialists claim they can accurately model a renewable energy future and its effects on the global biosphere. But our best science can't even model a fish tank. Ingrafia insisted that Jacobson's legal fight had only begun and said the professor's critics were partially driven by Mark having made a very famous name for himself in an arena with many other people working, and they're not getting all the fame. Jacobson echoed this line in his own defense. They don't like the fact that we're getting a lot of attention, so they're trying to diminish our work. Give the guy a break, Ingrafia appealed. You know, if he's wrong, of course he's wrong. No one's going to be right. What? No one could possibly be right now about what's going to happen in 25 years. We're all entitled to our projections. We're all entitled to our crystal balls. Wow. Crystal indeed. That same courtesy was not extended by Ingrafia and his allies to the makers of Planet of the Humans, however. Right, of course. Of course. We're all entitled to our opinions about what's really happening with climate change, except you. We were unable to identify any factual errors in the film, and we're open to the idea that we could be wrong about some things, Zenner said. But we'd like to have that debate and not be shut down. Among the wave of attacks on Planet of the Humans, a disproportionate number were churned out by the renewables industry insiders from an innovation strategist at the green power energy firm that was criticized in the film for clearing a Vermont mountaintop to build a wind farm. For me, this film was personal, he stated. Okay. to Now You Know, a podcast by two mega fans of Elon Musk who fondly refer to the billionaire as Elon and have proudly declared that they are long on Tesla stock. Wow. Missing from nearly all of the takedowns was the documentary's scathing critique of the corruption of environmental politics by billionaires and elite family foundations. The conversation our critics really didn't want to have was about the last one-third of the film, Zenner remarked, which dealt with the influence of billionaires and money in the environmental movement and the divestment sham. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. This article goes on and on, but this is I think this is really important information for all of us to take in. So I'm going to keep on reading this. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.